Let's make a 3-tier wedding cake. Grab a snack. It's going to be kind of a lengthy video, but I want to give you any and every tip and trick that I have so that way you can make a nice and successful wedding cake. We're starting with our bottom tier. This is an 8-inch chocolate cake. I'm using a 12-inch drum just to make sure that it is nice and sturdy and stable, and that way it has enough room for our florals that we're going to add as well. I know a lot of the time when you hear a multi-tiered cake, you assume that the process is going to be different than you would make a regular standard birthday cake. Do not feel that way at all. The main thing we need to focus on are supports for this cake, which I'm going to start now. As always, we are working with frozen cake layers. That way we don't get as many crumbs in our crumb coat, but that this way our cake stays nice and firm and stable so that we don't have to worry about it shifting, melting, bulging, and sliding around. Speaking of bulging, what we're doing here is we are burping our cake. We are allowing some breathing holes for our cake so that way if there is any trapped air anywhere in this cake with the frosting layer, all of that. And of course, there's going to be a lot of weight on this cake. So if there are any air pockets, it's going to push down and it's going to be terrible. You can either use wooden dowels or boba straws. Because this cake is so big and quite wide, I like to use boba straws for the bottom 2 tiers. If I was doing just a 4-inch on the top, I would probably just use wooden dowels because it would be fine because it's not that heavy. This is a heavy cake. Then you're just going to put your frosting on the top. If you wanted to add your boba straws after you've added that frosting, you absolutely can. I just like to see more of the cake when I'm adding it so that way I know how deep to go. As always, the key to getting a nice final coat is to make sure that your crumb coat is as smooth as possible. Doesn't need to be perfect, but the smoother it is, the better and easier it is going to be to get your final coat. Then because we added that frosting on the top, giving it one more breathing hole, but this is also going to be a guideline and you'll see when it comes later. I fast forwarded this whole part because this is just the top 2 tiers that I'm doing. It is the same exact process. The liquid that I'm adding is simple syrup, helps ensure moisture. The recipe for it is posted on my page. Also, I have a playlist specifically dedicated to it. You guys always ask, how do I know how much simple syrup to add? And I always like to think of what the event that the cake is going to. So for a wedding, I know that weddings are pretty long. People are going to cut the cake. They're going to be there a couple more hours. They're going to dance, probably come back to the cake, then eat some more cake. It's going to be a really long process of cake just sitting out, exposed to air, because of course it's going to be hot in there. So you need to make sure it stays nice and moist. And the key to a smooth final coat is to make sure you add significantly more frosting than you think you're going to need on the exterior, because that way you can scrape it all away. But trust me, when you start to add more and more frosting to cover up areas other than like small touch-up parts, you're going to start to see a difference in color. At this point, I've placed both of the top tiers in the freezer so that they are fully firm. It took about 10 minutes. You just want to make sure that you can handle them without leaving your fingerprints in there. And then just taking a pair of scissors and cutting away that cake board. Remember that guide hole that we made in the beginning? That is what's going to help you when you put that skewer in your top tier to then give you a guideline when you go to put on your top tier. Then you can remove the skewer because it was just to help you place it down on there without having to just slam it on there. Then you're going to take a piping bag with the same buttercream and use a gloved finger to then just rub it across. Then you do the same exact thing for the top tier, and if any adjustment to the left, right, front, back needs to be made, that's your time to do it. I wish I would have filmed this entire part, but this took me about 8 hours to hand cut all of these, paint them gold. This was a mission, but let me know. What do you guys think about the cake? Okay, bye.